and welcome to the second round of the TFR SuperCup, live from Road America. Just watching the end of qualifying at the minute. While it's just sorting itself out, we're at Road America in Wisconsin, Elkhart Lake. We are going to be doing a 90-minute race. We have two classes of cars. We have the Ford GT and GT3 class, and we've got the GT2 class and the GT1s, our lovely Corvettes. Just going to introduce a co-commentator, the lead commentator, Will Vincent.
Very good evening, our time. Very good evening to you, Rob. How you doing?
Yeah, lovely, thanks. It's quite early. We had a quite interesting practice and qualification running up. We'll give you a quick rundown when the cars go to grid of what the order of racing is. It's been quite good fun. I think there's been a lot of sandbagging in practice with a lot of slow people that have pulled a couple more seconds out of the hat in qualification.
Oh yeah, I mean we've had over on the last couple of days, 2 6-hour sessions, then we've had the 4 hours today, and it did look as though as soon as qualifying started, people really started to show what their true speed was when they were almost 3-4 seconds behind coming into qualifying.
Absolutely, and there's been a lot of quite sort of friendly helping of setups and helping of learning the circuits, and it's all been quite good. We are now 5 seconds away from gridding up. Okay, we're on grid. I'm going to let Will take everyone through the... we're going to do a pace lap. We're going to let Will take you through the order of classes. Order of cars.
Yeah, and just before we continue, you will see already the counter is beginning to tick down on your screens. The way it works is that's a little bit out. We believe it's anywhere between about 3.5 and 4.5 minutes out, but we'll be letting you guys know throughout the race exactly how long there is left to go in the session from the second the green flag drops. But as far as the Corvettes goes, John Maloney, the pole with a 1:59.779. Only 3 drivers managed to actually break that 2-minute barrier. As I said, John Maloney's in first. Lining up alongside him in P number 2 is Oliver Brandt. And in third position is David S. Peterson. And some really good drivers, Rob, all the way through that GT field. The entire field separated by just under 4 seconds there.
That is very close. They were... about that time. There were a lot of 204s, a lot of 205s in practice, so they've really pulled the low fuel setups out of the hat.
And lining up alongside David in row number 2 is Farouk Manzar. Row number 3 will be David Ward in position number 5 and Gary Hickman in 6th. 7th will be Ian Rogers, and alongside him is Neil Heckins. That will be for 2-minute 1, first driver in the 2-minute 1s. And row number 5 is Robert Lowry in number 9. And Just van de Heuvel in 10th. And Christian Nilsson is in 11th with Bart Monin in 12th. Adam Keel in 13th. Kieran Pierce in 14th. Morgan Morand 15th. Philip Arth 16th. Carl McGurk in 17th. And Larry brings up the rear of the Corvette class.
And that's excellent. And on to the GT2 cars as the pace car pulls away. Kimmo is in 19th, which is the first position for the GT2 cars. Toby is in 2nd place. Peter is in 3rd. Eric Veldoff is in 4th. Wita Boonbeck is in 5th. David Jordan 2 is in 6th. It's quite confusing. Stephen Coppins, another Talk Freak Racing driver, is in 7th. Dave Geimer of Team Charlie. 9th is Mark Bird. 10th is Jasper. 11th is Simon Geimer, brother of David. And I think 13th is David Kersen. 14th Mario Vlasic. 15th is Sasha Rab. In 16th is Havard Espeland. We'll get down in the 207s now. 208s is Norbert and Chris Partridge. 34th, 35th in total, and Willem Pinar bringing up the back of the grid in 36th.
And I have to say though, Rob, Kimo did a tremendous job. He's only 1.3 seconds behind the slowest Corvette driver, so some real praise for him there in the Ford GT, which is a considerably slower car over the course of a longer run.
I tell you what, Kimo is absolutely on it, because I've been watching him in practice, and he's not been that quick in practice. And I was there thinking, I thought this guy's going to be really, really good, and all of a sudden the class has sort of told itself out, because he's now at the top and he's on pole again. So fantastic racing. It's going to be interesting to see how close he gets to some of the Corvettes when they come around to lap him.
Oh yeah, and let's not forget, you know, this is round 2 of the Spring Championship, and we're running aboard right now with David Peterson, who is currently your points leader for the GT1 class, having scored the win in the first race of the season. And for David, it'll be an interesting scenario. He'll want to really push, but he wouldn't want to get involved in anything that would ruin his race earlier on. And Gary Hickman, who is third in the standings, is currently about 3 spots behind him. So we haven't unfortunately got Alexandra here today, but it's pretty close up top, and those guys aren't very far apart on the grid either.
No, I tell you what, David. I was talking to David actually beforehand, and he was on about a few chaps in the grid. He was the champion from last year, and there's a lot of new drivers in this year, and he's really quite apprehensive about some of them, because they are quick, and he hasn't heard of them a lot.
So you can see the cars right now are coming through the kinks heading down towards Canada, and this is going to be a really interesting part of the track, Rob. Very high speed, a lot of commitment needed as you go through here, and then a big stop, probably your second biggest stop of the lap as you come into Canada Corner. So famously noted, so in case if you don't brake, you might actually end up in Canada.
Fantastic, and we're just about, I think we've gone through the Bill Mitchell Bridge, which is about to come up onto the start-finish straight. Or soon, I think we'll run up to that now.
So, as you've already mentioned, it's going to be a 90-minute race. It's a timed race here. We've done our maths, and we believe you can pretty much do the entire race on 2 full tanks of fuel. However, it'll be interesting to see if some guys play the strategy card, to see whether or not they'll, do 2 stops instead of 1. It seems as though that you can do a 2-stop strategy in about 2/3 of the time doing 1 stop, and see whether they, it all settles down together.
Well, let's be honest, Will. You did the maths. This all confused me. So respect from that. They're all the drivers are quite silent about what's going to go on. I think we're just going to go start.
Green flag is in the air. We are green here at Road America, and the cars you can see already trying to single file it as much as they can, all of them, until they get down to turn number 1. You don't want to be too aggressive too early on here. And you see Ian Rogers there just making a move, gaining 1 position at the start into 6th position. But so far, pretty clean all the way back, Rob.
Well, I certainly don't see any dramas in the GT field yet, which is good. Although I believe Kimo is side by side. They're all sort of grouped up behind the Corvettes. Obviously, there's not enough room yet. They're not managed to stretch themselves out enough.
And this is where it gets into a big drag race, coming down to your first real big stop of the track. You see a couple of drivers pulling out, trying to see whether they can get the draft to work in their favour as they come down towards the stop. Still very clean so far. TFR operates a really good policy on making sure that it is clean racing all the way through the field, with drivers getting penalised if they do make too many aggressive moves and forcing drivers into what they call avoidable contact.
Oh, absolutely, but in the same day, I don't think that they want to get too far up someone's rear. They're coming to the real slow corners, so it's just to take it a little easy in the early few laps, make sure they don't have an incident soon into the race.
And we did have a crash in turn 4. I believe that is the 36 machine of Farouk Manzir, who is off track. And you also have Maloney off track as well. Sorry you missed that earlier on.
Yeah, certainly it's quite hard to keep up with 36 cars on the grid at the moment.
Maloney is way back. You see him struggling to try and get back. I don't know if he's going to come down pit lane already, but he's only in the final corner. You can see the leader is pretty much already... Oh, sorry, I've got that completely wrong. Joe Maloney is already coming to complete lap number 1. Completely confused myself there. But Simon Gamer is in pit lane by the look of it, and you also have a couple of other drivers trying to get repairs in pit road as we speak.
Oh, absolutely, there's still plenty of racing left.
And Rob, now you've got that first lap out of the way, this is where, you know, a number of drivers are going to see how they are in comparison to the cars around them, see whether or not it's worth fighting for position earlier on, if they're just going to sit back, play the strategy game, see if they can save a little bit of fuel to push it later on, save their tyres. And I think this first part of the race is going to be, I wouldn't say subdued, but a lot less chaotic as soon as we get past that first pit stop.
Oh, no, absolutely. I think there's a... you can certainly see a lot of 4GTs down the back of Morian's sweep. They're just trying to size each other up as well. A lot of them are running quite deep into corner number 5. I think at the moment the camera is watching number 36 car of Farouk.
And out front, John Maloney is leading by about 0.6 of a second over Peterson at the moment. And in third place, you have David Ward, I believe. You have Farouk Manzar in third, David Ward in fourth. And the top 3 cars have almost broken away by about half a second to a second from David Ward there in that famous pink number 69 machine there.
I love that team pick. Big accident.
Big accident, 2 and 3 off there. And that is the championship leader and
David
Farouk
Peterson,
Manzar.
yes.
And that was big contact there between the two of them.
And now I think Farouk lost that under braking and just took someone out with him.
Yeah, you see Farouk was just coming down, braking for the corner, tries to go down the inside, just hits that inside retaining wall on the entrance to Canada, and just takes out Peterson, who was an innocent bystander. Nothing he could do there. But for Farouk especially, it looks like his day is done. And it looks also that it could perhaps be the same for David Peterson there.
Well, never say never. We've just seen a replay there and we can see that Farouk just under brake and came and hit the wall, very close to the walls in Road America, and he just took poor unfortunate David out, and they both ended up in the kitty litter. Could have been worse. They could have gone straight through the kitty litter into the wall.
And, you know, going down through those kinks, the walls are very close. Absolutely no room for mistake there. Even after you get through the kinks into Canada, you've got that wall on the inside, and the tyre barriers are very close. So if you get into the gravel, you know, it's not going to stop you that much. You're likely going to hit that wall in Canada, and it's very, very, very tricky corner right there. One of the most treacherous on the racetrack.
Absolutely. I believe we're watching Oliver Brandt now, car number 21, who is up behind David Ward in the pink car of Team Pink. Certainly a very fetching livery.
Oh yeah, and this is going to be very, very bad for Peterson, who leading the championship into this race. It looks like he's not going to get any points at all here, and Farouk's already apologising. But you know, tough days for both those two drivers.
Well, he may have certainly apologised, but I certainly saw him exit the gravel, pushing David out the way again. I don't want to start any sort of gossip.
Yeah, I noticed that too. But for Maloney, he's got himself about an 0.8 of a second lead right now over David Ward. He's inherited second position, and Oliver Brandt, who's right behind him. And these three drivers have formed a nice breakaway now. 2 seconds almost is now to the next car.
Well, they're trouble-free, really, aren't they? They've just got to put their foot down now and just hope that it's a completely different race when they start catching up with the 4 GTs.
And it does look like coming off the final corner, Maloney's got such good drives to come down into turn number 1. But then you see David edging closer, and that's a little bit more than you see in the normal Condor effect. But you've got Oliver Brandt really, really pushing him. And if I was those two drivers, I'll be thinking, well, should we fight for position now, or should we see if we can catch Maloney and then fight about it when we capture them?
Well, absolutely. I believe in round 1, Mr. Brandt was did not finish. He did not complete the first race, so he has a lot to sort of make up, really. He has a lot of points to try and claw back over the other leading drivers in GT1.
And you did see Brandt trying to make a move around the outside now, turn number 5. Very difficult place to try and make a move on the outside. Didn't quite manage to make it happen. And all the time that these two drivers are fighting, they're going to be allowing Hickman in 4th and Hickens in 5th to start closing that gap, which currently stands at about 3.5 seconds and a little bit of change.
And a little bit of change. It is interesting. I think in 5 and 6 you're going to see a lot of positioning for run-ups to the other corners as well, especially out of 6, where you a little bit of a straight and hurry downs and a little kink to the right as well, so he's certainly looking to try and pull some time up there.
Oh yeah,
to try and pull yourself a move into carousel.
Oh yeah, and if you get a good run on someone out the end of the carousel through the kinks coming the way down to Canada, you could see a couple of moves being made there, but there's only one line through the carousel, and the last thing you want to do is time you move too early, and you're going to have to check up a little bit, which completely ruins your momentum all the way down towards the end of the lap.
Oh, absolutely. I can see in the GT2, sorry, in the Fords, we've got a bit of a fight in 23rd and 24th position with Dave Geimer in one of the Team Sharks, and Daniel Kersen, car number 59. They are nose to tail. They've been joined by Stefan Coppens. All this stuff sort of going off camera, really.
And then the Corvette, as you can see, riding with the number 11 machine of Robert Lowry right now, and he's got Christian Nilsson really hassling him as they come down into one. Doesn't look like he's going to get a pass made there. Just trying to put a bit of pressure, see if he can make a mistake and do this good old switch over. But 4 cars out, well, 3.5 cars, 4 cars almost, all running within about a second and a half of each other there. And it'll be interesting. If one driver slips up, they can very easily lose a good 3 spots right there in an instant.
Oh, certainly. They are a twitch away from each other, really. You know, one of them could make a mistake and the others have the complete run on him as they go out the start-finish straight.
And it is a possibility if you have got, you know, a teammate around you with the way the draft works on these cars. You can see if you try and line up and push a driver around the outside, that is possibly the only opportunity you'd have coming into these big stopping positions to make a move on the outside line. Obviously, the preferred option is to try and make a move on the inside. But if you've got a teammate and the driver ahead of you is driving defensively, then you could try and use that to your advantage, because there's some very long straights here at Road America. Some of the longest straights you do see in the entire iRacing service.
Well, you'll have to be brave to do that, William. But we can see them all bunching up now and fight in the corners 5 and 6, or just coming up to 6 now, going under the Corvette bridge. And I believe Stefan and Mark Bird, they have pretty much a similar livery. Are they the same team? Or have they just got the same body shopist?
I'm not quite sure about that. I will find out and get back to you. You see Geimer there locking his brakes up just before he enters the carousel. Lost a couple of attempts there, and he's got Stefan Coopens right behind him, and this is what I'm saying. Now he's got the chance to line him up coming out the carousel, seeing if he can get the draft as they come down through the kinks. And very bad place to, you know, have a bit of an issue, because you don't want to lose that momentum going into the carousel.
Well, the kink is a very, very scary corner to go through, so it's certainly one of the corners we class in racing as a bravery corner.
Oh yeah, it's right up there with the likes of Air Rouge, the 130R over at Suzuka, and you see the 4GT drivers especially have to brake going into that corner. I was doing a couple of practice laps here the other day, and in the 4GT it's especially scary.
Well, they are a heavy old beast of a car, aren't they?
Oh yeah, follow the traditional American method of put lots of horsepower in it and worry about the turny twisty bits later on.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's good for Road America. As you said, there's a lot of straights, and there's a lot of straights that's followed by quite tight corners as well. So.
Oh yes, you don't actually get into a position here where you have a long straightaway with a then sweeping corner afterwards. So it's a lot of, you know, stop start, but you've got to be so good on the power coming onto the straightaway and so good on the brakes coming into these corners if you're going to continue any form of momentum on that lap.
Okay, I believe we're watching Robert Lorry now, who is in 8th, and Christian Nessen, who's in 9th. Cool, that's a lot of cars having a good old fight there.
And you see both of them kicking up the dirt there on the inside of that corner. You want to try and maximise all the curbings, all the thing you can, to try and gain that extra little bit of speed. And it's very slippery on these curbs, though, so these drivers spend a lot of time.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. We have an overtaking manoeuvre. Daniel Kersen has taken Dave Geimer, and Stefan Coppens is up right up behind him now. I think they made a mistake in corner number 5. David ran a little bit late, doing that locking up of the brakes you were on about earlier. But I interrupted, so I apologise. It still looks like it's a good battle. We've got the camera on Dave Geimer now. We'll see if he makes the same mistake. Well, I think we're looking at a replay. Here we go. So in the corner number 5, lock. He's pretty well not to lose that, really, and just lit the rear tyres up trying to get back on the circuit.
And as soon as you get off the track, the main thing you want to do is try and keep it as steady and smooth as possible, so you don't spin it around or, jolt it so you spin into the wall, and then you just want to get back on track as quickly as possible. But you've got to be careful once you do, because you lose so much grip in your tyres, especially with this new tyre model, that you've got to take it easy for a good half a lap afterwards, so that you can kind of rebuild that momentum, get yourself back in the game, while at the same time building back up that heat on the tyres and getting rid of all that debris.
Well, wise words. So currently, we'll run through the top 5 of each class. We have John Maloney in first in the GT1s, David Ward in second, Oliver Brandt in third, Gary Hickman in fourth, and Neil Heggins, whose father is watching. Hello, Mr. Heggins, or Daddy Heggins, I'll now call you. In the GT2 class, Kimo is in first, or he's in 16th position overall. Eric is in second, Toby Bushell is in third, David Jordan is in fourth, and Victor is in fifth, Victor Bubnek. I think we're still watching Dave Grime now. I believe actually that the series leader, David S. Petterson, has indeed pitted and withdrawn from the race,
which is going to be a big shame for David. You get 25 points for a win, and they award points positions all the way down to 15th. Solitary point for finishing in 15th, but that's a good number of points that has been thrown away right there. And thankfully he's got the rest of the season to gain that up, but 25 points is a big hit this early in the season.
Okay, the pink Corvette has yielded, and Oliver Brandt has gone past David Ward now for second position. Big move.
And we were talking about Oliver Brandt before we came on air earlier on, and he is one hell of a really good aggressive driver. We don't know what the connection is between him and Nico Brandt, who I don't believe is racing here today, but you can see in that 91 Vitaphone machine that he's a very, very solid driver, and he likes putting pressure on other drivers to, either force them into a mistake, almost kind of be aggressive so that when you do make that pass, the other driver is just going to yield it to you.
Absolutely. I think we're going to look at another battle between Mr. Bushell, who is all the way down in 19th position, and I think he's just passed, in fact, either David Jordan, or David Jordan has always been in 20th position, but they were less than a second away from each other.
And I do believe, sorry to interrupt, but we have got David Petterson in the booth. David, do you get a copy at all?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hi, that was a bit of an unfortunate accident there for you. You were running really well in second, and then all of a sudden, your race just ended in a heartbeat. Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, let's see. I was just trying to get myself together. It's always, it always takes me a while to really get into my groove at the beginning of the race. Starting to be able to catch up to Mahoney there. And then just at the end of the Canada corner, here comes a car just slides into me out of nowhere. I barely even saw him coming. I didn't really have any time to react or anything. Looking at the replay, I'm not sure if there was any way I could have avoided it.
Hello, David. It's Bob. You're absolutely right. You were indeed a passenger for that, I'm afraid. He just lost control under braking, hit the wall, and I'm afraid you were the unlucky chap that was in the way. Ever so upset to see you out this early, mate.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this race. Things were looking pretty good for it. I was hoping that I might be able to take pole, but those guys are awfully fast, and they edged me out. So it was going to be fun having the battle during the race there. But it's racing. Stuff happens. Baruch, I'm not quite sure how to say his name. Manzar. He immediately apologized on the server, and it's an accident. I'm not mad at him or anything. As long as it's nothing intentional. It's just this sort of stuff happens.
And was Canada the corner, that you were most worried about coming into the race? Obviously very tight as you approach it, and obviously you've got the possibility if you do, lock up and go straight on, that you could be into the wall, or was there any other corner that, was your key point that you wanted to be careful through the race?
Oh, there's a lot of corners around here that are trying to kill you. Canada's just one of them. I think I struggle the most with the kink. Actually, that one's a really scary corner where you're at full speed and you have to be really committed getting onto the gas, and you're never quite sure if your tires are going to give up and put you into the wall that's just 3 feet away from the edge of the track.
And if you're watching right now, you can see we're riding with Kimo Suman right as we speak, and he's got himself about a 4-second gap now to Eric Veldorf, who's second in the GT2 class. But David, coming into this race, you were the series points leader, and you've obviously lost a good number of points that you could gain in this race. How are you going to bounce back going into week 3?
I think I'm just not going to worry about it too much. You get 4 drop weeks in this series, so this is just going to be a drop week for me. And it just means that I'm going to need to be that much more careful and not get out of race again.
And does that ever play in the back of your mind when so I believe the 8 car is off on the backstretch. We'll go to that momentarily. That is Juice van der Hout. But does that play in your mind after you get, one bad race at the start of the season? Does it take you a race or 2 to get over it, or is it just a case of, each race is to its own?
Well, I think last season, the first race at Elton Park, I did all sorts of practice getting ready for that, and then I just stuffed it into the wall entirely on my own, not even near anybody in the first half hour. And I was so gutted at the time. But now I've kind of got that to look back to, that, hey, that's the way I started the season, and I won the championship at the end, so I guess it'll be okay.
Okay, and before we let you go, who do you think you should pick for the rest of this race now, as far as the G1 cars are concerned?
Well, I'd have to vote for my teammate John Maloney. He's certainly been looking very, very strong in practice, and he didn't end up with very good turnout at Watkins Glen, but he was catching up to me at one point, and I think he had dropped out of the Corvettes for a while. He was doing the 4GT, I think, and he's only just recently gotten back into it again, so he's just kind of shaking the rust off. And here we are, in the second round, and he's real tough.
Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us, David. Bad luck again. Hope to see you again next week.
Yeah, you'll definitely see me next week.
Well, take care then, David. While we've been talking to David, there has been a few bits of action going on. We have noticed Juice off the circuit. He's back on the circuit now. Juice is a chap that's been struggling a little bit this weekend. He's not had a lot of practice time, and he has been certainly trying to get the right setup. The fixed setup he's had, he said, is very, very stable, but it's about 2 seconds slower than what it should be, or what everyone else is doing. So it's not punished him too much.
And you can see right now we're looking at Ian Rogers in number 29 Talk Creek Racing Machine, that bright green rear end, and he's really, really pushing. He's in 6th position right now, and he's trying to catch Neil Heckins in 5th and Gary Hickman in 4th. Got about a second to gain up on that, but he's doing a good job right there, Rob. And it's at that stage of the race where your tyres are warm, you know where you are, and if you want to push, now's a good time to try and put a bit of distance between you and the cars behind coming into pit stops.
Oh, certainly, but it's also the time of the race when you can switch off as well. I mean, you're certainly a glass half full chap, one very much a glass half empty. You've got to keep that concentration, and certainly you've got to not forget your pit stop.
Oh yeah, and John Maloney is actually only about 12-13 seconds behind catching Chris Partridge in the GT2s to put him a lap down. So we are going to start seeing in the next couple of laps some lap traffic come into play, and that's where it really does get interesting. You want to try and find the right place to make that move. Otherwise you could lose a barrel load of time, but at the same time you don't want to be too aggressive, otherwise you could end your race and the race of the person you're trying to overtake, and this really is where it gets tricky, isn't it, Rob?
Absolutely. You don't want to commit the 4GTs that you're lapping into anything too sort of drastic on on the switches, on the left and the right switches and the kinks and those sort of corners. You really want to use the straights to just to power past the Ford GTs.
And Oliver Brandt, even in the 91 Vitaphone machine, is really catching Maloney now. Only 8/10 of a second behind at the line. And as Maloney comes in to start lapping these GTs, this is where Oliver's going to be looking for that tiny little bit of a gap to try and take the lead here. And it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not Oliver's going to play the aggressor card or just see. And you see the GT just nicely lets them both out of the way. Let them get on with their race. He's got nothing to fight for rather than just, track position and pride right now. But it could get interesting as these two continue to work their way through lap traffic.
Absolutely, and Chris Partridge is about to be caught by the pink car of David Ward as well, so I hope he shows the same courtesy. I'm sure he will, actually. He's a very fair race driver. And as you said, it's all about racecraft. Sports car racing, mixed class racing is a lot about racecraft. It's not about the one-lap wonders and the guys that can really sort of put one lap in 10 really fast. It's about just being steady and making your way through the crowd and knowing how to lap slower cars.
Sorry, just to interrupt you there. The 91 machine, William Pannier, went off the corner before the carousel. He's lost a lot of time. I believe he has hit the wall and he's just trying to cruise it back down towards pit lane. You can see he's got some severe left front damage to his bodywork there. So he's going to just try and get back into pit lane and see if he can get some repairs.
A good spot, and I wonder if everyone sort of gets past him all right, really. We're looking at the first two drivers now. They're quite close. They're just going to the start-finish line. They're just going to go up the hill.
And we're on board now with Oliver Brandt, and just to see a lap on board of one of these drivers is always a bit of a breathtaking sight. As they come down to turn number 1, 175-ish miles an hour as a break into turn number 1. Very, very tight corner. You want to see if you can get on the power as quickly as possible here without losing that back end. Bring it down into 2, and he's still catching Maloney. He's only 4/10 behind now. Again, another tight corner, single file through here. Try and use that runoff area on the left-hand side. You come down into this long straightaway, and you notice, Rob, there's not actually straights all the way down. There are always little twists and turns, to keep you on your toes. So you don't really ever get the chance to breathe as you come down into the first real big braking zone here, turn number 5.
Certainly, you've got to keep an eye on where you need to be on the circuit at any given time, really, and also gives you the chance to properly place your car when you're following people through, get the draft, and just keep yourself awake, really. If you look at the circuit diagram of Road America, you just think, it's just some straights followed by some corners, but there was about 15 or so corners on this circuit, and you don't see them until you really sort of sit in the car and drive it.
Oh, that was a close one there. You can see the lapped car just as Maloney and Brandt. And Brandt's going to try and go around the outside of the carousel here, I believe. Not quite going to make it happen on Maloney, trying to capitalise on the mistake. Coming out of the carousel.
Although saying that the carousel does have quite a late corner, just where you see that little bit of rubber, just where you see the curve, you can take it quite late and then just sort of cut it to get the straight line speed for that next straight.
And this is the last real big breaking point on the track, Canada corner, one we talked about so much. As you see, Nico right on the rear end now, Maloney's. They come through the last couple of corners. This is a tricky uphill corner. You can't get on the power too early here to the gradient change. And then just as you go into the final corner, you see the tarmac changes. And if you hit it at just the wrong point, as you see Brandt there getting a little bit loose off the final corner, that tarmac coming into the last corner, just as it changes, is where you don't want to hit the brakes. Otherwise, the grip level as you go between one lot of tarmac to the other completely alters the balance of the car and really, really makes the driver's life a handful.
I tell you what, there are some fascinating battles going out throughout the race. We
have a crash of 31 car off on the backstretch. That is Adam Kell there.
And he was riding quite high.
Yeah, and you see coming out carousel, who's completely fine. And then it's that famous kink corner one we talked about already. Enters it just a little bit too hot, gets onto the rumble strip on the outside of the corner, and just spears right into the wall. And tough luck for Adam, because he's running 8th at time in the GT1 class.
Yeah, that was certainly an unfortunate incident. Where is he down? Is he down? Is he dropped down into 14th or so now? Is he? Or is he down lower than that?
He was 14th at the flag, but if this race is over and after such an impact, I believe it probably would be, he's going to probably be classified 16th it is now. Probably be 15th in class, so he might just pick up a solitary point there in the championship.
No, he certainly looks to be back in pit lane.
And the
dropping like a stone.
And the battle on track still really is between these top two drivers, still separated by less than a second. John Maloney in the 07 car, Oliver Brandt in the 91 machine. And these two drivers aren't giving an inch at the moment. And this race could be lost or won on how these drivers come in and out of pit lane.
No, I tell you what, I'm very, very impressed with Oliver Brandt. He is really, really charging hard. Do you reckon he's running a lighter fuel load than Mr. Maloney?
Not too sure. I mean, we've had half the race already. Sorry, half an hour of the race already. So, by my calculations, pit sequence will normally be about 46, 47 minutes into the race, I would suspect. So, unless he'll be pitting in the next 2 or 3 laps, these two are probably going to come down on exactly the same lap to make sure they can make it to the end. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Oliver's tyres start dropping off, being stuck behind the dirty air of Maloney for so long.
Certainly has been certainly burning out of a few corners. He may well be using his rubber a bit more as he's catching another back marker. Yeah,
that is Sasha Rabe, who's already a lap down. Scored overall in the 28th position. And you see, this is a tricky part of the corner of the track to try and lap a car coming under the Corvette bridge. It's single file through here, and it's going to be a point. You know, if Oliver wants to make a move, now's his chance because they're not going to be able to clear him until about now. As you see, Sasha moves to the outside lane, lets both the drivers pass and get back onto the racing line. And it looks as though Oliver's just going to continue staying behind him, pushing Maloney into a bit of a mistake there.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what, it took a few corners to get past, and I wonder if David Ward's going to be held up as much, because he could have really, really used that to close the gap on the first two guys.
It looks like he just wanted to drive off, coming out the carousel perfectly. He might have lost about half a second, but not that much, but yeah, this is completely what we were saying earlier. In this mixed class endurance racing, it's how you navigate traffic the best. Yes, a little bit comes down to luck, but at the same time, if you can find a gap early and have cooperation from the drivers, and you can gain yourself, you know, a second here, a second there, and over the course of a fuel cycle, that could be a good 5-6 F.
And I'm just having a little look down the grid. I believe we just go on board with Toby. Toby, who is in 17th and was 3rd in GT2.
And just to answer your question there, David Ward actually gained almost an entire second over Maloney and Brandt, and that puts the gap down to just under 3 seconds. So your top 3 driver is separated by 3 seconds here in the GT1 class. In the GT2 class, it does look like that Kimo Suleiman is just driving away from the GT2 field. He's got already a 10-second gap over second place Eric Veldoff in the GT2 class, and Toby is in 3rd. Further about 7/10 of a second behind.
Yeah, Kimo really has form of being able to really drive away from people. It's sort of fantastic to watch. We've got some pretty good battles going on at the moment in GT2. I'm watching Peter Kamer now, who's very, very close to the number 12 car of Victor Budnek.
And Eric and Toby and David Jordan are right on track together. So, again, one mistake from either of these, you know, it could put them back, you know, 1 spot, 2 spots, or they can completely lose a draft generated by these cars going on the straightaways, and that will just mean they'll fall back quite considerably in the longer run.
Absolutely. This is going to be an interesting battle between these 3 guys. And let's look at where they finished in the last race. Victor, we're looking at Eric. Kimo's taken Bart. I think Bart Moonin's had a moment. He's had a Moonin moment. And looking back at Watkins Glen, I mean, Eric finished he finished 11th, so he's doing a lot better than he did in the last race, and hopefully he can pick up some valuable points here.
And sorry, away from our screen, we noticed that at the end of lap 14, Robert Lorry pitted there, so he was on one of these two-stop strategies. And we believe that there's another driver in pit lane now. That is the number 42 machine into pit lane. So that's Bart Munning also into pit lane. So a couple of drivers seeing whether or not they can, do a two-stop here, see whether they can make that work. But it depends, on whether you think you can gain those extra 15 seconds on a two-stop strategy, because it's such a long pit lane here, and even though you're saving a lot of time not having to sit down and wait for the fuel, such a long pit lane, and you have to do it one more time, it really does take a good driver to be able to maximise those opportunities.
Well, I'm not entirely sure Mr. Lorry's visit into the pits was entirely voluntary. He's dropping. I don't think he's in there fueling, is he?
He pitted on lap 14. It didn't look like he had any on-track incidents at all. So...
Oh, that's interesting. That's another unsolved mystery of the TFR SuperCup.
And the yo-yo battle between Maloney and Brandt is continuing, and Brandt's fallen back to just over a second behind Maloney. And it does look, every time they go through traffic, sometimes Brandt manages to catch up, sometimes, Maloney looks like he's going to pull away. And this time, Brandt having to just dive down a single car gap that was there, going to Canada corner. Didn't lose anything really, might gain about a tenth or tenth and a half. But it's very close between these two top drivers.
Absolutely. I wonder if it'd be great if this keeps to the end of the race. If these guys are this close, or even closer at the end of the race, that'd be fantastic.
And I'm wondering if Oliver Brandt feels that he's in a more comfortable position being the chaser rather than the guy out front, because he's able to, potentially dictate his pace a little bit more, knowing where he can, where he doesn't need to push. But at the same time, he has dropped back a little bit over the last couple of laps. So I was just saying earlier, he might have just, started to wear these tyres down a little bit, and that might give Maloney a little bit of a chance to run away and hide a little bit before we come to pit stops, which should happen in about 6, 7, 8 minutes time. So in about 3 laps time, about lap 21, you see drivers coming down pit lane.
And we can see David Ward. He's just got past that back marker. So he's trying. I think he may have lost that additional second that he caught up earlier.
Oh yeah, he's lost that and a couple of more. It always seems to be when the leader comes by, everyone's so keen to jump out the way. But then if you're not in that lead group and someone else, it's sometimes a little bit more difficult, or it could just be luck, They say where it comes down to where you catch people on track. These drivers, remember, in the GT2 class are having their own battles, and they're not just going to dive out the way from everyone all the time. And we're getting close to the halfway point now. And as we talked about so much, Maloney is still leading this GT1 class. Oliver Brandt, 1.2 seconds behind now in second position. David Ward in third. And then you've got a big gap, 20 seconds between David Ward and Neil Hickins in fourth. And Ian Rogers rounds out your top 5 in GT1.
Although Mr. Hickins and Mr. Rogers are fighting, they are very, very close on circuit. I just wonder if they're just driving a train, really. Just sort of keeping it nice and clean, just to get pit stops out the way. Certainly don't want to go into the pits with any damage.
Oh yeah, definitely. And in the GT2 class, as we've talked about already, Kimo Suleiman is just driving away still. That gap's up to 11.5 seconds now to Eric Veldoff in second. Toby Bushell is in third in the GT1 class. David Jordan's in fourth. And Wicor Bubniak is in fifth in the GT2 class. The gaps, comparative-wise, about similar between the top 5 in the GT2 and the top 5 in the GT1.
Ooh, we've just seen the David Jordan behind Toby go very, very close to his bumper on the braking. It's that corner number 5 again. It's a real sort of humdinger when you just after that long straight and you want to just get down into the lower gears to go around it.
Oh yeah, and once you come up to lap drivers, I do a little bit of endurance racing in HPD, and coming down into these big braking zones, you need to remember that if you're lapping, for example, a GT2 car and you're in a GT1, they're going to be getting on the brakes a little bit before you, so the last thing you want to do is be right behind them as they start braking, otherwise you're just going to, end up slamming into their rear end and putting you both out the race.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. At the same time, if you're in a slower vehicle getting lapped, and you've got your eyes in the mirror, you're looking at the guy behind you, thinking, "What's he going to do? What's he going to do?" You don't miss your own brake point, because you can end up in the wall.
Oh yeah, and as we said before, these GT2 drivers are still racing their own race. They're not just mobile chicanes for the GT1 cars to navigate. And these so often you hear the debate over, should a GT2 driver move out the way? Should the GT1 driver just try and find a way by? And at the end, I think it's just a little bit of cooperation between the two classes. And we've seen today that, on the most part, it really has been good cooperation between the GT1 and GT2 drivers.
Absolutely. I mean, the precedent in AMLS and Le Mans as well is just the slower cars drive your own line. The faster cars, it's up to you to get past them, nice and cleanly.
Oh yeah, and thankfully, even though this is a very narrow track, thankfully that there is ample opportunities to make a pass. You're not going to get stuck behind someone for a tremendous amount of time as you would, for example, tracks like Infineon Raceway.
Absolutely, it's really, really built for multi-class racing, this circuit.
Oh yeah.
It is very, very flat, very quite off-camber as well. It's not like Watkins where you can get sort of sucked around a corner. It's very, very flat and very, very narrow.
And we are approaching about 2.5 and 3.5 minutes away from the halfway point here at Road America. Round 2 of the TFR Sprint Cup Challenge Trophy. I'm Will Vincent. Alongside me is Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hello, Will.
And we've been
Thanks
rambling on
for
half
joining
the
us,
race. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We are absolutely halfway through.
Not quite, but getting close to it.
Okay, we've had but maybe the main talking points is the series leader Dave Petterson getting collected, let's just say, down at Canada Corner early on in the race by Farouk Manza. That's put him out very, very early on, and it's given John Maloney and Oliver Brandt, David Ward as well, the opportunity to really get some points on the board.
And you can see Oliver Brandt is close right back up to the rear of John Maloney, coming down into the kinks again. It does seem to be that Brandt is so much stronger in the second half of this track, yet because of the way it is, it's single file through the kinks, he doesn't seem to ever really have the opportunity to make that manoeuvre stick going down to Canada.
Oh yes, a very brave corner to go around when you're really quite close to someone. I'm just looking back in the GT2 now, and Toby Bushell's door to door with Eric now. They're just coming up to the first corner. You might want to follow car number 1. In fact, Toby in the TFR car has now passed Eric.
And that is some pretty beautiful paint schemes for the TFR drivers. You can tell which driver it is by the rear end of the car. Each one carries something ever so slightly different. But, yeah, Toby's doing a really good job up to 2nd position in class now for the GT2s. Still got a long way to go if he's going to try and catch Kimo Suman, though. But we've still got pit stops to go. We've still got half the race to go, 13 seconds isn't out of the question.
Absolutely. We're just watching we've maybe seen the replay of the pass now. It's nice and clean. You just got the drag up. You got a better exit of the last corner. Better drag up the hill and just alongside. And it was just a case of, yeah, to be honest, mate, just sort of let me past. We don't want to have an accident in the first corner.
Yeah.
And going back on the previous point, very nice paint job, but it just ain't that pink car, is it?
It's not that pink car, David Ward, and you see it throughout a number of iRacing series. There always seems to be the one driver that paints his car pink, and strangely enough, it's always that one driver who when he comes up behind him, they're going to find a way past you relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you can join in the conversation on Twitter. Let us know what you think about the early race accident involving sorry, I've just managed to get my words messed up, David Petterson, or what you think of the TFR liveries, or what you think about our pathetic commentating.
Absolutely.
I've forgotten the hashtag. You're going to have to tell me that one, though, Rob.
I commandeered the TFR or hashtag TFR SuperCup. I've commandeered that hashtag. So feel free to just put that on your messages, send us some abuse or send us some thoughts of what's going on really. It's a great race to watch.
Oh, and sorry, just off the corner of our screen, Oliver Brand, I keep on saying Nico, Oliver Brand has passed John Maloney for the lead. So at the line, Oliver Brand is going to be the leader as we start lap 22, exactly halfway into this race now.
Unbelievable. He really is a hard charger, isn't he?
And it's been a case of these two drivers for the entire race. And I believe it was happening as we were talking into turn number 1 about a lap ago. Unbeknown to our screens, we were looking at the GT2 drivers, and Oliver Brandt just went down the inside, nice and clean, into turn number 1. Job done.
I don't think for a minute that it was a case of resignation from Mr. Maloney, because they've both been driving very hard. Do you just think that Mr. Maloney's going, okay, I might have a pit stop on the next few laps? It's just, just get in nice and safely. Possibly,
yeah. Or maybe he's trying to pressure, perhaps, Oliver into being a bit more aggressive for the last part of the stint. Fuel shouldn't be an issue here, but Oliver's been able to probably cruise behind Maloney for the large portion of this race so far. Possibly save himself a gallon maybe here and there, underneath braking, turning in. So I believe Maloney could be saving a bit of fuel right now, making sure he can hit a fuel number.
That's very gamesmanship. That's very deep thinking, Will.
Well, Maloney has been a lot slower in the last lap or so interesting to see what happens in the course of these pit sequences.
Oh, absolutely. And looking very far ahead, do you think we're going to get anyone run out of fuel?
I don't think so. It's too... judging by... Unless I've completely got my fuel number wrong, I was told earlier that the GT should just about be able to make it no hassle if they hit the halfway point. And then the Corvettes have got slightly better fuel mileage. I don't think there will be. I don't think that will come as an issue as much as it would at tracks like the Glen.
Well, we can certainly see a few people, a few Ford GTs coming in the pits, just getting a little, getting their refueling done and maybe a tyre change.
I think with this length of race, you will be taking tyres.
Okay, you'll see a lot of position changes in the ticker above the screen. And I can also clear up one of the mysteries of earlier. Rob Laurie has indeed retired.
That's interesting. And it looks as though Toby Bushell is coming into pit lane. So he's in pit lane as we speak right now. And as I said, I think that all of these drivers will be taking tyres. You see, Toby did take tyres from that stop, if I'm correct. And just because of the fact it takes so long to fill the tanks up with fuel, taking tyres is done and dusted in about 13-14 seconds. So you might as well take tyres because you've got to spend an extra 15 seconds in pit lane to fill the tank up.
And has he actually got past Eric in the pits in one of the fabled undercut manoeuvres?
Well, no, he was actually ahead, remember, a couple of laps beforehand. He did make the overtaking manoeuvre on Eric to move into second on class. So whether he's just consolidated that position's more up for it. And the 88 car, sorry, you go ahead, Rob.
Oh, yeah, looking towards the back of the grid, the 88 car, William Pina, has indeed had a little bit of an incident. He's going to be in the pits a little bit longer than he may have originally intended.
And that's the second incident there for Pina, because we saw earlier on that he had lost it. I believe it was coming out of the carousel about 15 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Well, sometimes the car can twitch. There is quite a close wall as well on the exit, which can cause a bit of trouble if you do lose control of the car. Maybe you just want to get the power down a little bit too early and it just doesn't play ball.
And that's one of the things I've seen so often, you just run on that outside curb, and the inside part of that outside curb, you've got to bear with me here, the inside part of that outside curb is, fine, but as soon as you get onto the outside part of that curb, it always just wants to snap you loose and send you straight into that right-hand side wall. So it's literally a matter of inches can be the difference between you having the speed and being out the race.
Yeah, certainly. It's a very short distance between success and failure once it does go wrong.
And the gap settled down now between Maloney and Brandt. It's 1.5 seconds at the line last time by between Oliver Brandt running in first in the GT1 class and John Maloney in second. So whether or not Maloney was just saving a bit of fuel, had a bad couple of laps, but the gap seems to have settled down just the other way around as it's been for the first half of this race.
Well, I think I see David Ward in the pits.
Yeah, that's right.
In third, I think he's down to ninth now. He's still getting lapped. It's interesting that the GT1 drivers, the only person in GT2 they haven't managed to lap yet is Kimmo.
Which they're going to be coming up to in probably about a lap or so. No, sorry, less than that. It looks like they're doing that right now. Oh, sorry, I take that back. It does look like they haven't passed him just yet. I've got my time completely wrong there. You can shout at me later.
They are very, very close to doing it though. Unless the pit stop intervenes.
Yeah. So pretty much it does look like everyone's starting to come down pit lane for this one and only fuel and tyre stop. Oliver Brandt still staying out. Keep an eye on Maloney, see whether he comes down this time by. And indeed, Maloney is coming down pit lane. Maloney in the 07 is coming down pit lane this time by. And slows it down to that pit lane speed limit of 45 miles an hour. Very, very slow pit lane here. Not only is it one of the longest, it's also one of the slowest pit lanes as well. It's long and horrible as he comes down into pit lane. Fortunately, we know you can't see this on your screen, so we'll just let you know how the pit stop goes. Make sure nothing untoward happens. Coming down and still getting towards his box, who's at the very end of pit lane, so he's got a long way to go. But once he gets back out, it's easy pickings for him to get straight back out onto the gas. But yeah, he's completely fine into his stop, so no issues on the way in.
And Oliver Brandt's turn number 5 now. We'll see how long his strategy needs him to carry on before he comes into the pits, and then we'll see what the pace of John Maloney is like, and see if he manages to get a little bit closer.
And the tyre change has been done, topping off that fuel. I say they'll definitely all be good to go to the end of this race now. It's just a case whether some drivers gamble by taking a couple of gallons less, seeing whether they can be a mathematician on the fly. And Maloney's out of the pits now, and for Maloney, he's got the advantage that he can get straight back onto the gas, doesn't need to use the pit speed limiter at all coming out of pit lane, so he can save himself, and we worked out this before, about 2.5 tenths of a second by doing that, being able to accelerate straight up.
And certainly, yeah, it's a funny few first laps on cold tyres as well, especially the new tyre model.
Oh yeah, the new tyre model. And Oliver Brandt will be keeping an eye on him, seeing whether he's going to come down pit lane this time by. We should be expecting him to. He must be running on fumes almost. As I said, he must have saved a bit of gas earlier on, but he stays out for another lap.
Brave man. I just wonder how much fuel he was saving sat behind John Maloney.
And if he's really pushing now, I mean, he did what, a 2-minute 1.3 list time by just gone, and he really is still putting that pressure down.
Well, I tell you what, if he's running on fumes and he's pulling 201s, that's with the tyres in the state of his tyres, that's pretty good. Indeed, yeah. We're looking at the stats. He has pulled a faster lap than John Maloney's race fastest so far. So he's doing very well.
And his times have been consistent all the way through. Just looking at his lap times now, his last few laps have been lap 21, 201.665. Lap 22, 201.665. And then a 202, a 201, a 201. So very consistent lap times to the thousands in a couple of cases.
Certainly getting very, very close. The battle for second looks like it's between Nell and Kieran Peace. Kieran Peace has been a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing, really. I don't know if that's the right phrase to use, because he didn't qualify too good, but he's clawed his way all the way up now. So He's doing quite well. He was one of the ones I tipped to be a dark horse throughout this race because I've been told he's quite quick.
Remember though, Peace hasn't pitted yet. We expect him to come down in the next couple of laps, and Brandt had to go all the way down to the inside there in Canada corner to make that move. That possibly cost him about half a second, which is not what you want, just as he's about to make that dive to the right to come up the hill into pit lane. We're keeping an eye on him still, and surely he's got to come by this time by. Surely. And he does. Oliver Brandt is going to be coming into pit lane all the way up the hill, late on the brakes as possible. You see that little wiggle as he slows it down, 45 mile an hour into pit lane. And now we're going to have to see where he feeds back out in relation to John Maloney.
Oh, this is real sad. This is real squeaky pants time. Squeaky bum time even. I'm getting all my sounds wrong today.
And Oliver being the last of the one in, you know, the last thing he's going to want to do now is overshoot his pit box because, you know, even half a second of flicking it back into reverse and getting back, you know, that could be the end of the race for him. And he's perfectly into his pit box. And as we speak, Maloney is going through the kinks in towards Canada corner.
And he's quite close.
Yeah, he's entering.
David Ward's not too far away from him.
No. David Ward is only about a second behind as they come out of Canada into the second to last corner. I feel like I'm on Top Gear right now. Coming into the final corner right now, Oliver Brandt is out of pit lane, and he's got himself a huge advantage there. It looks as though at the line, Oliver Brandt's going to have about a 6-second lead.
Well, that's a fantastic turn of pace from Oliver when he's running on fumes. We'll see how long it takes him before he feels comfortable in the new tyres and the change of weight which a fuel stop brings.
I tell you what, it could be even more than that because Maloney's only going into turn 2 as we speak, and Oliver Brandt is already out of turn number 5. So Oliver Brandt is just putting that hammer down, and he's got the opportunity to walk away with this race now.
And a quick stop and go from Kieran Pease as well. So that was good spotting. He hadn't done his pit stop yet. He's just rejoined the circuit down into corner number 1. So we believe now, our spotter is telling us, and our director is telling us, that everyone has pitted. So it's a hard charge, unless we've got any 2 stoppers, till the flag.
And I think that the way the pit sequence works, most people, I say most, should be on a one-stopper. There's 1 or 2 people in the GT2 who, because of the fact they, you know, might have had an unscheduled pit stop earlier on, might have tried to short fill for the second part of the stint. But I think everyone's on a one-stopper to go to the flag.
And you might be able to correct me here, but I believe Toby is in first place in the 4 GTs. Is Toby pitted yet?
Not quite sure. I'm having a look now, but it does look like he did manage to get past Chemo on the way into pit lane. So it's all changed.
That really is a turn out of the books, isn't it?
Yeah, all changed then. We'll go for the GT2 class first. Toby Bushell in the number 1 TFR machine is leading. Chemo Zimmerman is in second. Eric Veldorf third. David Jordan in 4th. Peter Kiemeiser in 5th. Wicker Bubanek in 6th. Daniel Christen 7th. Stephen Coppins in 8th. Dave Geimer in 9th. And Mark Bird in 10th. By the way, I apologise if I pronounced your name wrong. Please tweet us with the correct phonetic pronunciation. And in the GT1 class, Oliver Brandt is leading by... Oh, he had to just go out of the way there. Almost collected a back marker as he goes into 5. Oliver Brandt leading by a magical 17.5 seconds over Maloney. David Ward in 3rd.
And sorry to interrupt, the back marker that Oliver Brandt had just passed has just spun coming out of number 6.
Yeah, sorry, that's Bert Manning in the number 42 machine.
And that's a lovely paint job. What's that? Stars and Stripes? Beautiful.
So Oliver Brandt in 1st, John Maloney 2nd, David Ward 3rd, and then from Ward back to Heckins, you have a good, almost 30 seconds gap to Neil Heckins in 4th, Kieran Pearce in 5th, Ian Rogers 6th, Gary Hickman 7th, Just van der Heuvel in 8th, Christian Nielsen 9th, and Morgan Moran in 10th.
Okay, I believe we're going to go to a replay of a crash in number car 45.
Yeah, and you just see how he felt like he had to dive out the way for Oliver Brandt, holds the outside line, possibly just gets on the power a little bit too early, coming under the Corvette bridge, and just loses it on the inside curve, spins it around, but manages to just keep it away from the barriers, spins it back rounds on his way.
Well, it's certainly good he came out of it with no damage.
Lucky one there. So
we're up to lap now. I think they've lapped the last place Corvette driver that's currently still running, and so we're now up to, we've lapped everyone apart from 9 other vehicles.
Yeah, just 10 cars on the lead lap, and we're working what effectively is lap 28, I believe, for the GT1 cars. And we're having another look at the replay of Burt Manning as we speak. And that 42, a beautiful paint scheme for that Stars and Stripes. I did something similar back in the day when I used to play another sim, and always a popular paint scheme with these Corvettes.
Yeah, with them being American cars, you would have thought.
And you just see the 69 pink car of David Ward also to lap there on Munnin. So David Ward right now, his only opportunity right now seems to be to try and catch Maloney in second, because it looks like Brandt's just dancing off into the sunset.
It's going to be an interesting close to the race. I believe that Ian Rogers and Gary Hickman were quite close. In fact, there's only a couple of seconds between 6th and 8th.
Meanwhile, we're looking at the GT2 fight for the lead, and Toby Bushnell has got Kimo Suleiman right on his tail. Kuman in the number 51 Aeon machine, and Toby Bushnell in the number 1 TFR car, and these two are going hammer and tong as we speak. Toby now pit stops right away. Isn't going to let Kimo pass without a fight, but the gap we saw Kimo put out at the start of this race, it could just be a matter of time before he makes a move.
Well, he's certainly been very, very rapid all race, and he had a longer pit stop, so he had a lot of work to do in the second half of the race. And I think it was not really a surprise he's caught back up with Toby. So it's going to be an interesting few laps, because I don't think it's going to take that long, because he really, really is quick.
And just to explain, I believe that Kimo must have lost it coming into pit lane, because his pit stop itself was 3 minutes 13 seconds. That's from the time that he stopped, came back out and did a complete tour of the circuit, whereas for Toby that was only a 2 minutes 57. So a 16-second gap between two of them pit lane. So whether or not he'd caught a little bit of damage, I'm not too sure.
Well, I guess that's going to be another mystery. This one might be not complete unless we ever talk to Kimi after the race.
And I'm just having a look back, and I think he might have actually sped coming to pit lane.
Oh, that's bad. We can't do that. You get an instant stop-go penalty for that, don't you?
Yeah, luckily you get to take it there and then. But I'm just having a look here, and he slowed down going into pit lane, and then he accelerated. So he hit the pit lane speed limit to come down, and either he hit at the button and the speed limiter didn't connect, or he accidentally turned it back off again. That's a very costly egg there for Kimo.
He'll probably be pinching him off right now, just as he's up behind Toby. He'll be kicking himself. He'll be looking every lap he's stuck behind Toby. He'll just be probably quite irate that he messed that up in the pits.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's one of the critical parts of the races. We've talked about it all race long now, as we're riding on board with Kimo Suleiman. I'm going to try and say his name right at least once in this broadcast. I believe it's Kimo Suleiman, but if I'm wrong, correct me.
Absolutely, and you can abuse him on Twitter on the hashtag TFR SuperCup. I've certainly already abused for mentioning David's name, David S. Peterson, I believe it is.
But so we're riding on board with Kimo, and you just try and see whether or not he's going to make a move down on the inside of Canada. He doesn't seem to be close enough as they go through the kinks, though. It does seem like if all the parts of the racetrack it does seem to be that Chemo's slower on the way into the big braking zones. But you see here, he's putting that pressure right back on as we go into the final corner. Not quite going to get the gap. He was about a car length closer. He could have made a move to the inside there.
We can see them going up the pit straight now, up the hill, alongside the pit wall. I just think Kimo's been a little bit sensible on the braking. He's not trying to get too close.
Oh yeah, but we're just about 25 minutes, just under 25 minutes left in this race. You know, it is about to be go time. You see, he's looking to the inside, but again, brakes early, doesn't want to commit himself just yet. I'd say give it 15 minutes, and he'll be taking every braking opportunity he gets.
Well, that was also quite psychological, because you can see Toby didn't fully close the hole there. He left a little bit open. He certainly didn't drive up on the apex like he normally does.
And he's going to, he's just looking to the outside there. You see, just a little bit of outside here. It's like, okay, this to the outside. I'm just going to go to the inside. And then, as you see here, he's going to try and make a move on the inside. Not quite going to get it, though. Going to be side by side as he goes through this corner. And it looks as though he just, looks like Toby's going to manage to live to fight another day.
Close the door there through Harry Downs. Fantastic racing from both drivers, because they certainly left each other enough room.
Oh yeah, they left each other at least a lane, but probably not much more.
And this carousel's going to be interesting, because they're just sort of toying with each other at the moment. I think Kimo's just trying to pick his spot.
Yeah, and for Toby, he was very lucky that he managed to stay alongside after they went through the Corvette bridge down into the Harry Downs. If he wasn't side by side, then Kimo would be just driving away right now.
Here's a conspiracy for you. I'm pretty sure that's a TFR Corvette now. Just come into Lapham.
And you see, this is what I say. If you're the Corvette driver, the last thing you want to do is cause a bit of an incident just as you're starting to have, as you get up to the fight for the GT2 lead.
No, and you certainly don't want to come together with another driver in your own stable, especially if he's leading said race.
And back in the GT1 class, Maloney is dropping back. He's dropped back by about a second further on Oliver Brandt since the last time we spoke about him. David Ward is about a second behind himself. It keeps on going to and fro, that yo-yo-ness effect we're talking about with Maloney and Brandt earlier on in this race. With Maloney being able to, in some ways, to get through traffic better, and other times being held up slightly and enabling Ward to get a little bit closer.
And I believe we're just about to see a replay of number 7, which I believe is Christian Nislan, who came together with a GT2 car. Or are we? Oh no, well I'm afraid we don't have that replay available, but I assure you it did happen. It's not my imagination. As Christian goes off circuit again, he's back on straight.
Oh, for the lead! Oh, they touch! Toby Bushnell and Jarno have touched right there, lap 31. Toby manages to continue, and it just looked as once again like on the lap previous. Jarno goes down the inside after the Corvette bridge. Toby doesn't turn into him, but gets a little bit loose coming off the corner, and just turns and tags Jarno right there.
Well, do you think Kimo's going to be out?
Sorry, not Jarno, Kimo. I'll take that back. Yeah, Kimo. It does look like Kimo is out. He stopped on the racetrack just before the carousel, and unfortunately, what has been a great battle has ended in disaster there for Kimo.
Well, that is unfortunate. He did just lose control of the car, Toby did. Just turned him into Kimo, which is a shame because they've been very good at leaving each other enough room. It's just a shame that there was a bit of a loss of control there.
And Kimo now is going to be kicking himself even more, because if he didn't get that speeding penalty, he wouldn't have been in a position where he'd have to try and force manoeuvre on Toby. And while Toby lives to fight for another day by the look of it, we'll see whether he comes down pit lane with any damage. But Kimo, it's game over.
Certainly in the last 15 minutes as well, or 15 or so minutes. Very, very big shame it's happened this late in the race as well.
And I tell you what though, Kimo was very, very close to losing it himself. As they go over the curb, Kimo was using just so much of it that he actually came up a little bit into the middle lane, and it was almost lucky that Toby got loose himself, because otherwise Kimo might have just brushed up a little bit into Toby. So hard racing and unfortunate circumstances there for both drivers.
That was a great in-car we've seen there from Toby's Ford GT as well. You can see him just the back end step out a little bit more than it looks like it was going to do on the external view, the camera view, the TV camera view of the car as well. So I believe Mr. Ward, Mr. Maloney are quite close for second place at the moment.
Yeah, the gap is down to under a second now. Sorry, I believe actually Ward's managed to get. Yeah, Ward's managed to get past Maloney. I don't know when that happened, but Ward is into second position and Maloney is into third. It happened in this last lap. So
well, certainly
Maloney
not updated the standards yet on from what I can see. We'll have to see a replay of when that happened.
I'm just having a look back now, but sorry about that. Maloney gets loose. Just drives straight on into turn 5. We said that's a big braking point, and it just looks like he completely missed his braking zone. And Ward just drove straight past there.
Well, there's certainly a lot going on. There's certainly a lot going on in this race today.
And unfortunately, this is we've not been able to get in-car footage from Maloney all race long, and it's so unfortunate. He just loses it on the entrance to corner number 5, which you see him coming back down towards now. Just literally outbrakes himself, goes straight on, has to turn the car hard to the left, bounces up and down a little bit on the gravel, and just unfortunately lost the position. But he's trying to get right back on his tail. We're going to try and get a replay from the 69 car's rear view camera, but Maloney's closing right back up. He's not going to give up this without a fight. He had the lead for the first part of the race, pushed back to second. He's not going to be happy if he finishes on the final step of the podium. I'll tell you that one.
And I believe we've got a TFR races on Twitter, using the hashtag TFR SuperCup. Simon Roberts, whose wife's just given birth to a lovely lady, a lovely girl, and congratulations, Simon. Shame you can't be with us today, but I believe we'll be back in the next round next Saturday at Suzuka.
Suzuka is one of the true drivers' tracks. One of my favourite tracks in the world, full stop, not just here on iRacing, but it is one very technical and difficult track, Suzuka. So many different elements to it. You've got to piece so much together in all one lap. Your setup's going to have to be, perfectly suited to so many different twists and turns and braking points. Going to be one hell of a great race, I'll tell you that one now.
No, absolutely can't wait.
And you see Maloney is putting that pressure on David Ward. He's now sat in second of the GT1s.
And by your clock, you are keeping time on an iPad today. That's not a product placement. How long have we got left in the race?
We have, by my watch, which could be completely wrong, and if it is, I completely apologise, we have 17 minutes and 37 seconds.
Oh, excellent. And this will be slightly different to the display that you viewers will be seeing. So don't worry if you see any white flags or any checkered flags or anything like that. We will talk you through how many minutes left in the race, and just to bring this race to a nice little close for you.
Oh, you see Maloney again almost gets loose there. Sorry to give people a heart attack, but Maloney just coming out the Hurry Downs, car almost snapped loose to the right of him there. And he's lost himself about another second. And all that time he's been spending harassing David Ward, who himself got loose a little bit on the Hurry Downs, is lost. And I tell you what, I think John saw David get onto the grass a little bit and thought, okay, now's my chance. Just put the power down a little bit too early, and the car tried spearing to the right.
Well, you've got to be wondering what's going through your head. It's the last few minutes of the race, and you really, really wanting to try and claw a place back from David. And you're just trying that extra little bit hard.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, although you could probably estimate, you don't know exactly when that white flag's going to come, so you want to be in a position that you can make a move at any point. You don't want to be in a position, where that white flag comes just a little bit of the wrong side of 90 minutes and you lose a lap's worth of opportunities. Or, if you're David Ward, you're hoping that, it does come the right side for him of the 90 minutes and he has a lap less to hold off Maloney.
Well, I think they're quite enjoying it at the moment. I think David's in a very, very good position now for the next few minutes of the race. We can certainly see John kicking up a little bit of dirt as he's trying to run that extra wide, trying to squeeze as much speed as he can out of the car.
One of the two stoppers, Morgan Moran, I believe it was a two-stopper anyway, is back down pit lane. He had an off, I believe, in the last lap. So he could be coming into pit lane for repairs. A very long pit stop for him, though, so we'll keep an eye and see whether he does indeed rejoin the track. But in a position that he is in, he's got about a lap's gap to Bartman behind him, so he should just be able to keep the position. And I believe he was involved in an incident in Canada Corner involving the 03 car of Christian Nielsen.
And I don't think we'll see a replay of that, although I can see that Christian and Juice on the last lap were quite close. In fact, they were under a second away from each other, car number 3 and car number 8. So we'll see what's happening there. Maybe Christian's had a problem, he's had to drop back a little bit.
No, Christian was involved with the 20 car, coming down into Canada Corner. 3 car gets on the brakes, both of them twitching a little bit, and the 3 car just turns in a little bit too early and collects the 8, both of them bouncing over the gravel trap. I don't think any of them got too much wall damage, but the damage you get from hitting another car is going to slow you down quite a bit.
Absolutely, and we can see now that Juiced is making the most of this. He's right up behind Christian now. Christian's probably thinking, how much damage is done to my car? How much is this going to affect the handling and performance?
And let's not forget, these two drivers are possibly going to get lapped in the next 3 or 4 laps. So if Juiced is going to try and find a way past, he wants to do it now, rather than having to be stuck behind him when the Oliver Brandt and David Ward come up to lap them and have to deal with them that way.
There's certainly a lot more drama left in this race. A lot of stories to tell. This is over till the fat lady sings, as they say.
And with 15 minutes to go, less than 15 minutes to go, Oliver Brandt is still leading the C6R GT1 class by 17.3 seconds. I tell you, Oliver's probably cruising home now. He knows he's got such a big gap. He's not going to have to stop again. So, 17.3 seconds back is David Ward. John Maloney right back on the tail of David Ward after that off about 3 laps to go. In third, Neil Hickins is now a full 55 seconds behind the leader in fourth. Kieran Peace runs like the top 5 in the GT1s. And moving over to the 4 GTs and the GT2 class, Toby Bushnell is in first, Eric Fedoff second, Dave Jordan third, Peter Kermit fourth, and Victor Bubnek in fifth. But still, Rob, the biggest stories of the day are that one driver from each class who we really expected to have a strong showing in this race, both out.
It's a massive, massive load for their title challenges. But David did tell us earlier they have four drop weeks they can use. So maybe we'll see how it pans out at the end of the 12-week season.
Yes, for those of you joining the stream just now, hello, very warm welcome to you. Where the hell you been for the last hour, 22 minutes? Stop watching Saturday Night Primetime TV, it's rubbish. But in the GT2 class, Timo Surumen was involved in an accident with race leader in the GT, Toby Bushnell, about 10 minutes ago now. Just coming under the Corvette bridge. The two got together. Toby got a little bit loose coming out the corner, and unfortunately, Kimo's race is ended. And in the GT1 class, the biggest story of the day was David Peterson, who on lap 2 was involved in such an unfortunate accident as the 3-car Christian Nielsen is off track again. He's really suffering from some damage now. He's in a position where it's going to be hard for him to even get back to pit lane. He might have to see whether he can crawl it back round. And going back, Peterson on lap 2, unfortunate accident. There's a car off in front of him. That's William Penier off in the Ford GT. I'm going to get this story out, I promise. David Peterson on lap 2, coming down to Canada Corner. Farouk Manzir just leaves it under braking, hits the inside retaining wall, and wipes Peterson out. But two real challenges for this race in each class out of the question. But we've still got some great battles going on in both classes, haven't we, Rob?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is some good racing throughout. I'm just trying to see if we've got any real battles. Going to be surprised. I think Christian's dropped down now. It's you can certainly see his car crabbing around a little bit.
Same with William Paneer. William Paneer is going to have to come down pit lane this time. He had a horrible second half to that. It doesn't seem like he's got any grip anywhere at all.
Yeah, he's certainly finding it very hard, and he's been in the pits more times, about 3 or 4 times in the race, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, and I tell you what, if William doesn't come down this time by, which I'll have a look as we come through, the fight for second is going to be right on his doorstep, and William stays out. He does stay out. He did think about coming down pit lane, he didn't, so it does look that in the next lap or so, David Ward and John Maloney is going to be catching him, but there's another 2 or 3 GT drivers in the mix also that's about to be lapped.
Well, this is an additional problem now for David, who is being caught by John, and I should think this is certainly the fight to watch for the rest of the race, because it's certainly going to cause. It's not over yet, I don't think.
Oh yeah, I think John was running a higher downforce setup for this race. You know, starting from the point, leading the first part of the race. I think he wanted the higher downforce setup so he could drive off the corners and give himself a nice little gap so that it'd make it so difficult for drivers to overtake him coming into a corner. And he saw that also in the fact he was able to be a little bit later on the brakes. But now he's stuck in third with some traffic, you know, in front of him. He doesn't seem to be able to make the braking points and make the move down the inside. So I've got a feeling that Maloney's probably running a higher downforce setup than the cars ahead of him.
And that was very edgy there, trying to take that back marker, Willem, because...
Yeah, Maloney's off! Maloney's off yet again. He just completely loses it down under the Corvette bridge. And I tell you what, it does look now with just over 5 minutes, about 7.5 minutes left, David Ward can go into cruise control now.
Well, that's good for him, because I've been watching David a lot in the practices running up, and he was certainly helped out a lot with the setup, because he was very, very unhappy with the setups he was running. So he did take a lot of advice from a few fellow drivers as well. So it's good to see him doing so well.
And you know, it's one of the trickiest parts of the track. It's so often not talked about coming under that Corvette bridge. But if you look very carefully, you see there's just been a replay there. You see the tarmac changes just about as you enter the apex of the corner. And it seemed to be that Maloney was always off line coming into the corner. Even though maybe he thought he didn't pass the car properly, he wasn't checking his rear mirrors. But he got onto the racing line very late and then tried to turn it hard left. And I don't think once he hit the brakes, the car wanted to turn left on him at all.
Yeah, this was certainly I think he was looking in his mirrors a bit too much, and it was a bit too much awareness of what else was around him rather than what he was doing.
But the gap now between, I'll have a look now, but the gap between Ward and Maloney is up to 5 seconds, and it's going to take a real feat for Maloney to close that in, what, 3 laps?
Yeah, I think it might be dead and buried, unless there's any comings together with back markers or any big mistakes now.
Yeah, and I think now that battle's over, most of the field is spread out, so while drivers are still going to be pushing to force drivers ahead of them into a mistake, it could tighten up at the end coming to the last lap or so, but for the moment, it looks as though the field strung itself out a little bit.
Okay, we're just seeing what else is around at the moment. We just see some people lapping back markers.
Oh, Peter Kermer in the number 33 machine just avoids it off the wall. He needs to keep an eye on his mirrors though, in Canada corner there. Peter Kiermaier in the number 33 machine, running 14th in the GT2 class. Just lost it on the entrance to Canada, I believe. Having a look at the replay now. Brakes way too late. Tries sliding the car around the corner, and that liquid moly machine just wasn't going to make the turn.
I think we can see in the battle developing Jordan now is catching Eric as well.
and the gap between the two of them is closing dramatically. It's every time I look back at it, it's closing 1.5 seconds. So he's going to be right in his tail as he comes into the last lap of this race.
Has Eric got a little bit of damage on his car, do you think?
Possibly. I'm going to have a look, but he might have a little bit of damage. I believe he was involved in something early on in the race. He does seem to still have a little bit of right side cosmetic damage, but it's not that bad by the look of it. But he is still almost tiptoeing a little bit. His lap times aren't what they were early on in the race. He's about half a second slower here, half a second slower there. But it's still consistent lap times, but I think that David's just really started to apply the pressure on. I mean, he set his fastest lap 2 laps ago, and was only a tenth slower in the lap that's just been. So he's really, really closing that gap. As you see, it's down to 1.3 seconds now.
Just watching David Ward coming back up against a few back markers now. See how much this slows them down in comparison to John. Let's see if John catches him a little bit. They're about 5 seconds off each other at the moment.
Wow, David really, really there, taking a bit of a risk on that lapped car. Not quite a dive bomb, you know, but while the car ahead got out of the way, he really just had to use all the track he could get while lapping Daniel Christensen.
I think our spotters tell us of an off-track incident with car number 3. Christian again. Oh, he's certainly not having a very nice second half of the race, is he?
Oh no, definitely not. Sometimes, you know, once you get into a position where you go off track once, you try really pushing to get back into your groove, back into your rhythm. If you push a bit too hard, too early, it just becomes a chain reaction, you know.
No, absolutely. We're looking at... Are we on the white flag lap? Yeah, I think we are.
We're not quite on the white flag lap. You can see the white flag on the screen, but the white flag hasn't been shown just yet.
Ah, see, I'm getting ahead of myself.
You are getting ahead of yourself. We've got a couple of minutes left, but we are getting towards a white flag lap. And Jordan is still closing in the GT2 battle, which, to be fair, is probably the closest battle on the track at the moment. David Jordan is really trying to close down and Eric Verdoff for second position in the GT2 class.
And I believe we see a very late retirement in Chris Partridge, who's position 23 now.
Yeah, and that's a shame for Partridge. He wanted to pick up a couple of points, and I think he got a couple. He'll be classified with 2 points, I believe. I'll have a look through the results. No, sorry, he'll be classified with 4 championship points by the look of it for this race, but unfortunately he'll lose out on a couple more. Oh, and you see there, under pressure, Eric just went a little bit wide coming out the downs. Having to take a bit of a defensive line through the carousel, but David Jordan's going to be right on him as they come out of the carousel.
And they're coming up to Cannon Corner now, aren't they? Which is... be tired drivers in that race, and they may not be wanting... Well, one of them certainly won't be wanting to have a fight this late in the race.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't look like David's going to make a move this time by, but he's lining him up to make a last move banzai if he needs to.
They go up the hill now for the start-finish line, under the Caterpillar Bridge. Eric moves over to the right and then back over the left. I think he's saying hello to his pit wall. Breaking now in the first corner.
And if I'm correct, I believe this could be the white flag this time by. Oliver Brandt in first position, still in the GT1 class, leading David Ward by 19.4 seconds at the line. Could be actually slightly higher. Dave Maloney, I believe, has given up the chase now. He knows that finding 5 seconds in the last 3 or 4 laps was going to be a very mean feat. But I think that he's just decided, you know what, I'll take it over to Suzuka next week, try and catch it then. For now, well done in your second position.
Absolutely. I wonder what happens now. Is he going to go? Is he going to try and push Eric to see if he makes a mistake, or to see if he just sort of runs a little bit wide so he can get stuck in for the last lap or so?
I'm not too sure. I mean, you can really see him closing, and if they come into the carousel this time by, it's going to be really interesting to see whether David can line him up to put pressure on him as they come through the kink down to Canada. He's getting very close, but he's having to check up a little bit as they go through the carousel to make sure that he doesn't get into the back of him. And it does look to come out of the carousel. Eric's a little bit better on the gas.
Well, we've got the kink now, Will. This is the kink here. Throw it
This
in,
is
see
the
if it
kink.
sticks on the way out. Run it wide a little bit. Kick up a bit of dirt.
2 car lengths. I don't know if he's close enough. If he's going to make a move, it's going to be very late lunge. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. They're both on the brakes at the same time. He tried to cut down the inside, though. Very good.
You might have a run on the line here. You might have a run up.
Yeah, as they come into the second to last corner. Look at that, how close it is. Eric's going to have to drive defensively into the final corner, but not quite. And it's going to be a run up the hill now.
Yeah, you saw him just twitch on the line.
And right behind him, Brand is coming up to the final straight. And we believe that this should be the white flag now. So Oliver Brand, if this is correct, should be coming by now to complete the race. Nope. One more lap. We lied. Sorry for the premonition there. One more lap for Oliver Brandt. This is the white flag this time by. So, for the GT2 class, I believe they'll have 2 more laps to go. Unless they manage to get themselves lapped this lap, there'll be 2 more laps to go.
Well, that's good, because I think this battle now can go on for hours and hours. It's certainly a great one to watch.
Oh, and you see David Jordan trying around the outside there to come into 5, and he's going to go wide, loses all forms of momentum up the... Oh!
Well, he's shown his card as a bust.
Yeah. It is now or never. I mean, after 90 minutes of racing, I mean, there's a good couple of points between second and third, so, you know, gaining momentum in this season, you are going to want to take the opportunities that are presented to you, and for these 2 drivers, they've got nothing to lose. I mean, you get 20 back and 16 for third, so, you know, those 4 points could come in handy at the end of the season.
And certainly with the no-show from John and Kimmo's unfortunate incident, you can see that there's going to be changes up the top easily.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And if I am correct, I do believe that Peter Kermeyer will take the lead of the GT2 Championship if he manages to stick in his 4th in class position.
And Wheater below as well. That's an excellent finish from those 2 guys. Well, does he notify him for position? We certainly gave that Corvette a little bit of a wiggle now, but poor old David Jordan's got another lap of this now. And there's Eric has gone long on corner number 5. He's off the circuit. He's spun. Oh, that was David Jordan. My bad. Sorry.
Sorry about that, I had the wrong button pressed there, but David Jordan that time by, he tried to do exactly what he did the lap before, going on to the outside into turn 5, tried making it so he knew he'd have to use that runoff area, but unfortunately just went a little bit too high and lost it.
I think we need to give David a bit of respect there, because he certainly, I didn't think he was going to catch that little bit of flick when it came back on the circuit. He certainly rejoined the circuit in a very Dukes of Hazzard fashion.
And in the GT2 class, Toby Bushell is going to come across the line any second now. We're riding with him now. Toby Bushell to win the GT2 class here. Gets the 25 points for him in his championship. And I tell you what, that was a great race by Toby. Unfortunately, the accident between him and Kimmo earlier on. But still, a great race there by Toby.
Yeah, fantastic race. And a shame for John as well. Sorry, for Kimmo.
Yeah. Eric Vidoff takes second position. David Jordan manages to hold on to third. But when all said and done, top three in each class, produce some really good racing. In fact, great racing throughout the entire field. Very few incidents. I think we've only had a couple of multi-car incidents throughout the entire race.
It's very, very high quality of racing on the in the TFR SuperCup, hosted by Talk Freak Racing and Glacier TV.
So I just need to get myself a quick sip of my water and we'll run through the positions. But Rob, if you had to pick a driver of the race, we'll go on BBC on ourselves for a minute. Who would you pick?
Well, that's a difficult question. It's got to be Oliver. He won, and he's also charged very, very hard throughout the race. I certainly didn't see him finishing in first place at the start of the race.
Oh yeah.
And also, looking back, Kieran Peace did a excellent race as well, and Daddy Heckens be proud to see Neil come in fourth place.
So, just to confirm the results, after 19 minutes of intense racing here at Road America, Oliver Brand comes home first overall and in the GT1 class. David Ward, 21.2 seconds behind. And second, John Maloney, one of the favourites going into the race after starting from the point, was in third. Neil Heckins, fourth. Kieran Pearce, fifth. Ian Rogers, sixth. And Gary Hickman wins the award for being the last driver on the lead lap in seventh. And then one lap down, you have Jost van der Heuvel, Christian Nielsen, Larry Kripp in 10th. Bart Money, we saw him had a bit of a moment earlier on in this race, but halfway through in 11th. Morgan Morand, Philip Arth, Robert Laurie, Adam Kell, Carl McGurk, David Peterson and Farouk Manza are your retirements for this race. However, Adam Kell will pick up a point for being the 15th and last driver. Sorry, the 15th driver classified in the race. And, taking a very deep breath, in the 4GT GT2 class, Toby Bushell wins the race from Eric Vidoff in second. David Jordan, you saw him put on a valiant effort for those last 10 laps. Unfortunately, losing it 2 from the end. And that number 85 machine coming home third. Peter Kiermaier in fourth. Wicker Bubnek in fifth. Daniel Kristen in sixth. Stephen Coppins in seventh. Dave Meyer in 8th, Mark Bird 9th, Sasha Rebate in 10th, Simon Guymeyer, Dave's brother, in 11th, Chris Partridge in 12th is your first real retirement, with Willem Paneer, Kimmo Suerman, who we talked about in that fortunate accident while batting for the lead, Mario Vlaskic and Jasper, I can't say that name, Grunnewag, and Norbert Wolf are your retirements in the GT2s.
Well, that was certainly a good attempt at Jasper's name. What an excellent race. And I believe we've been joined by Toby as well, the winner in the GT2 class. Welcome, Toby. Well done.
Thank you.
Can we have a little bit more microphone for you, Toby? I can't really hear you.
How's that? First go.
That's a lot better.
That's beautiful.
The first question is going to obviously be, what is your take on that incident coming under the Corvette bridge? It just seems to be that your car just got loose coming off the corner.
Yeah, I ended up giving Kimmo a bit more space than I intended on the inside, and then just got back on the throttle a little bit too early. And obviously you've got to adapt your pedal behaviour when you're taking a different line to normal, and just failed to do that. But fantastic racing with Kimmo, and we got through almost exactly the same way in the previous lap, so really exciting. Obviously, sorry to Kimmo for the contact.
And until then, it had been a really close race between you and Kimmo. I mean, what was your thoughts when you found out that you come out of the pit sequences in first after Kimmo's stop-and-go penalty?
Shock was the first one. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. I felt like I absolutely nailed my outlaps and inlaps but I don't know what happened to Kimmo just before the stops, if he'd got mugged by GT1s or what happened to him, but I wasn't expecting that at all. On raw pace, Kimmo definitely deserved the win today. But a great battle and really exciting in the first stint for me as well with Eric and David Jordan.
And how did it feel, in those couple of laps before the incident between you and Kimmo, you seeing him just sizing you up in your mirrors? It seemed to be that he'd go down the inside but not brake to see whether or not you'd leave the gap open for him, and then go to the go to the outside into turn 5, and then still brake early, and then eventually to say, okay, I'm going to go here and make the move.
Yeah, I think Kimmo, depending on the amount of time left in the race, really wears you down. He's a fantastic driver for applying pressure, and I could sense that he was getting less patient as the race was going on. But I mean, Kimmo's a fantastic driver. I had a lot of good battles with him, and we've got a lot of trust between each other. Hopefully, no hard feelings from the race today. He seemed okay in the server, but it kind of works both ways, because on one hand he'll feint a pass, but unless I think he's actually going to commit to it, then I'll try and just to give him only as much room as we need. But it's a lot of fun, really, really intense.
And just to interrupt, sorry, Will. The viewers will listen to this fantastic interview from the winner of GT2, Toby Bushnell. But we can also see just some of the highlights of the races that have just gone on. Some fantastic sort of highlights and incidents and comings together, and it's good to watch. I'll let you get back to the interview, Will. Sorry.
That's okay. And so we've got the replay showing right now of the incident, the famous incident, we'll call it now, with Kimmo. And is that just the issue, just how difficult it is to get onto the power in these GT2 cars? I mean, I've tried it out myself, and it seems to be, even if it's a couple of attempts too early, you get on the power, or just maybe 10% too, I'm trying to find a word, too forceful on the power, the car just wants to snap in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'd gone for a fairly conservative setup in that regard. There's some of the quicker setups, and actually I'd had to go with Kimmo's during the week, and he's able to get on the power in some cases a lot earlier, and the car will rotate a lot more on the power than mine. So I'm actually usually quite conservative in that regard. But yeah, on raw pace, he was considerably quicker and reeled me in very quickly after the stops. It was just a question of me trying to make it as difficult for him as possible, but enjoyed some really good side-by-side moments before, obviously, the contact.
And you starting second in the GT2 class on the grid. Did you have, a couple of set-up principles that you're going to go for the race depending on where you started? I mean, obviously being second, you'd have pretty much majority clean air ahead of you, only one car ahead. Did you choose a different setup to say if you're starting 6th or 7th in the pack?
No, I've actually kept my car set up the same since the previous round, just a minor tweak to the diff. Firstly, I was actually really surprised to be P2 on the grid. I think I was about P8 or P9 last week. But the more, because I switched from GT1 last season, the more and more time I've had in the car, I've just felt more and more comfortable. So I'll aim to keep this set up for the majority of the season now, at least, just with some minor tweaks.
And before we have a little chat with David Ward here, I know he's sitting patiently down there. Hi, David. What if you could pick just one moment of that race, that would sum up how you felt from your win? Is there a particular moment?
Oh, tough one. Probably my favourite moment was the lap preceding the incident. Just some really good close battling and a lot of fun. I didn't expect the win, but fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to next week already.
And 25 points in the bag, and that moves you quite a way up the standings in this spring championship standings. I'm trying to do the maths in my head right now, and it moves you 26 points. Yeah, it'll move you into the top 5, I think. If I'm wrong, please don't come and hunt me down. But going on to Suzuka, is that a type of racetrack you like?
Yes and no. I enjoy driving Suzuka. I think Suzuka's tougher to pass than it is here, and we'll see that there. But it's there's so much time to be gained or lost in the S's. Exciting track, very narrow, but I don't have a great record of finishing there, so going to need to get plenty of laps in before next week.
And especially in the twitchiness of the GTs, it's going to be another race where you've got to be on it for the entire race. You know, one slip up, you mentioned the S's, but the Dengers, Spoon Curve, the 130R, the Casino Triangle, you know, just one little slip up, it's game over almost there.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much, Toby, for having a chat with us today, and congrats on your win. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. Cheers for the broadcast. I look forward to watching it back.
Cheers.
And a bit more information as well about watching it back. The replays will be able to be seen on TalkFreakRacing.com, and also they will be on the Glacier TV, GlacierTV.com, which is our fantastic broadcasters as well. So you will be able to rewatch, or if you are now watching later, welcome, and you've missed a cracking race, or you haven't missed it because you've just seen it again. But I believe we've got David Ward now for a quick interview.
Hi, David.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm not too bad. If you don't mind turning your microphone up a little bit as well, that'd be great.
Is that better?
That is. So, well done. You brought the beautiful pink 69 car home in second.
Thank you.
Rob all day has been talking about how he's not been able to make any pink car jokes, so I'm sure he'll try and throw one in this interview. But it's been a very eventful race for you. You've had pressure, you've been putting pressure on drivers. You had Maloney all over your backside for the last half an hour until he lost it with about 10 minutes to go. How would you sum up your race?
I'm actually over the moon. There was when I saw the qualifying times, I didn't think I was going to be anywhere within the top 5. I'm really disappointed with qualifying as well. I should have been 59s easy, and I should have been mixing it up, so I knew it was going to be a chase from there. But the race setup I had was really good, so yeah, overall it was good. I'm pleased.
And you starting 5th, you obviously saw that incident with Peterson and Farouk right ahead of you. What was your first reaction apart from close your eyes and hope that you wouldn't crash?
I was a little bit further back than I couldn't really see, but it looked like Farouk just tried to dive down the inside, locked his brakes up and just speared into Peterson. I need to have a look at the replay, but from my point of view, I was like, wow, that's just taken Peterson out, so 2 more places.
And you managed to make your way up from 5th to 2nd. There's been, it's been a very eventful race in this GT1 class all day. Did you have a particular favourite moment at all?
Getting past John was one of my best moments. I was trying to put the pressure on him for it when I saw him come out of the pits in front of me, and getting past him was probably the best bit.
I've been told I have to kind of speed this interview up as much as I can because the poor guys at Glacier need a coffee break for their next bit of work. You know, that last stint, you had Maloney all over you for so long until I believe he tried to go around the outside of you and just end up spearing off. I can't remember if it's in turn 5 or coming out of the Corvette bridge, but how did it feel to have that pressure relieved from you with about 10 minutes to go?
It was a big relief. He was a lot quicker than me, and we came up to a GT40, and I can't remember the driver's name, but I managed to pass him, and then John looked in the rearview mirror like he tried to go around the outside on Corvette Bridge, and he just went off the track. When I saw the smoke go up, I was like, that's okay, I can just sit back and relax.
And it did look so much like, I don't know if he didn't know if he was clear or not, but it was so weird. He tried to turn right to turn left very late, and horrible manoeuvre by him. But we just looking at your relative button, hoping, looking at the gap, talking to the person in your ear, saying, where is he? Or was it just a case of, thinking, okay, I can cruise now?
I had him on F3, and it was, after I seen the gap, it was about 7 seconds, and that was enough with 10 minutes to go because he wasn't going to gain any more, and he might have locked up his wheels as well. So, and cooked his tyres, so again, it's going to be hard for him to chase down after that.
And going into Suzuka, I'm going to bring Oliver in here as well. Congratulations, Oliver, on your win. You're going on to Suzuka next week. What's your thoughts about the track? How well do you think you're going to do there?
Well, first of all, thanks very much. This was my first ever race victory in a Talk Freak Racing Super GT championship race. I'm very thrilled about it. Road America is one of my favorite tracks, so it makes it doubly rewarding to be able to perform there. As for Suzuka, last season in the Talk Freak Super GT Cup, I was racing the Ford GT around there, and I had great fun doing it. Quite like the track. Should make for some close racing there.
And back to you, David. Suzuka, track that you like?
I struggle there, so if I can get top 5 finish, I'll be happy.
Okay, thanks so much for talking to us, David. You better run away quickly before Rob makes some form of a pink car comment. But well done on your second position there. And Oliver, again, congratulations on your win. I have to say, that first stint, it looked as though that Maloney had the edge on you, but then all of a sudden, from the time that you took the lead through the pit stops, you just set a scintillating pace and ended up 15 seconds ahead.
Well, I had trouble passing him. I wasn't much faster than John Maloney, so I couldn't actually facilitate the pass really, and I got a run on him up towards the start-finish line. It's a few laps before the pit stop, and I dotted up the inside and got the pass done. I had about 2 or 3 second lead to him from when I made the pass to the pit stops, and I think John must have missed his pit booth for speeding in the pits or something like that. Because when I came out, I had things on both John and David.
And I've only got time, unfortunately, for one more question. I've got the guy shouting in my ear telling us that we've got to go. But you've said already that you like Suzuka. You've got yourself a nice 25 points in the bag in a race that Peterson's had a lot of trouble in. Didn't score a single point today. What's your aim for the rest of the season now? Are you just going to try and build on this win? How and what type of momentum do you think that's going to give you for the rest of the season?
Well, just as you said, I'm just going to try and keep the momentum up and do the best I can. We have some fierce competition in the series and G class as well. So I'm just going to go into it with hopes for some more results. See what I can do about it. Don't want to jinx it now.
Thanks so much, Oliver, for talking to us. Congratulations on your win. And very quickly, big thank yous to Yoni and Yano, our Pleasure TV partners, for being spotters throughout the race and telling us stuff that we couldn't see.
Yeah, really nice to have someone doing quality broadcast for us.
And Rob, you can wake up now.
I can wake up. Fantastic. Well, great interviews, guys. Just probably one more thing to say. That's for joining us for TalkFreakRacing.com. The race at Road Atlanta, Round 2, TFR Super Cup. We do have, or the Glacier TV guys do have another race coming up at 11:20 UK time. And that's the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. They're going to race a 90-minute race with MX-5 and Mustangs multi-class at Daytona Road. So if you guys don't want to go to sleep yet, or it's early in the morning for you, feel free to watch that.
Very quickly, Road Atlanta again?
Beg your pardon?
You said Road Atlanta again.
Oh, did I really? I meant Daytona Road, ever so sorry. Losing my mind. It's late here. I've been asked by David, as he's on the podium, he can get away with this one, to shout out to minitalk.com as well. He's a bit of a mini fan, is our David. Maybe that's where the inspiration for the pink car comes along.
I knew we'd get one in eventually. And I'll save my plug until next week. All right, are we going to say goodbye to everyone?
Yeah, take care, guys. Take care, viewers. Thanks for watching. It's been fantastic. This is Monowheel's first broadcast for TFR, so fantastic. Cheers, guys. Thanks for viewing in. Thanks for turning up.
Bye-bye.